Hello, hi Ofe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good.
Good.
Our panelists, Constance Walker, is online, and she was asking to be admitted to the session. I think it's already visible to all of us. So.
I think so. I think if she just clicks the top blue button, go. So John is joining us now.
Hello.
Hello, John. Welcome.
Hi, Lina.
Connie is now having some issues. I see the
Good morning.
Hello, Richard. How are you? Good morning. Welcome.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, perfectly.
We can. Hi, Richard.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
John and
Very
Richard,
well.
do you have a presentation or slides?
That's all I have.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, then.
All right.
No, I don't. I'm just going to talk.
Okay, perfect.
Tell John that where you are, it's cold too, like it is here. We wear sweaters.
12 degrees is the forecast for today, and it's not very nice weather.
Right. It's about 11
How is
here
it
at
in
the moment.
Sydney?
Let me see what the forecast is.
When I say 12 degrees, that's the maximum. It's
Yeah, I
less than that
understand.
now.
It is 12 right now, minimum 8, maximum 17.
Oh, yeah, that's probably 5 more than for us.
Yes.
You can take your sweater off.
I've got the heater on, actually.
Me too.
Lina, this has been a great success.
Thank you so much. It's been hard work, and thanks to everyone.
And you seem to be awake at any given time.
It has to be this week, especially. So it's been a bit hard, but it's completely worth it. The community is amazing. So all the efforts are little to meet the expectations. So and actually I want to thank everyone for joining this is the last session, so everyone is tired, everyone has so much to absorb, all the inspirational projects and all the contacts and connections throughout the week. So I really appreciate that everyone is joining. Susana is already with us as well. Susana, you can click on the IOF. Sorry, you can support if you prefer.
Yeah, hi Susana. So if you click the blue button at the top of the screen that says share your audio, then we should be able to. Yes, perfect.
Hi, Susana. And Connie also joined.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Connie. Hi, Susana.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Oh.
Thank you so much again for being today here. And as I was mentioning, especially in the last session, after such a busy week, I really appreciate that you join us for this. This is the first in the series of discussions under the topic of the IAU outreach on the strategic action. So I'm really glad to have you here, all of you. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be here, Lina.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I would suggest if we wait just a couple of minutes. So in the meantime, people are leaving the poster section and then moving to our panel discussion. So I see Aviva is here with us. Aviva is our NOC from Indonesia. Also, Larry, welcome. Welcome everyone. And please feel free to say hi in our chat so that we know you are there. Meira, our NOC from Puerto Rico, is also with us. Good evening. I see that Connie is not online. Oh, I think something
Yeah, she
happened. Or...
joined a minute ago, but I will just send her a quick message and see.
Okay, it's fine.
Maybe she doesn't like us.
Let's hope not. No, she's back. Hi, Monica. Hi, Patricia. Welcome.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, we can.
Yes, perfectly.
Sorry about that.
You disappeared. Now
I
you're
know.
back.
The system doesn't like me.
And I want to take this opportunity ahead of time to thank our Taylor for being here with us and supporting with the moderation. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Very happy to be here.
Whereabouts are you located?
Myself?
Yes,
I am Irish, but I am in the Netherlands currently.
I see.
So it's a little bit late, but not too bad. I'm doing okay.
I would suggest perhaps if we should start. What do you think, Aoife? Shall we start? If everyone agrees?
So,
Okay,
Yeah,
and
sure.
again, thank you. So I want to welcome you all to the IAU Astronomy Outreach Strategic Actions for the next decade. This panel discussion is part of a series of sessions, and it's the first one here at CAP Conference 2021. We are really excited to be here and to take this opportunity to make this the first in the series. And we appreciate everyone for staying with us until the very end of CAP after such a busy week. So I wanted to really welcome you, and it's a pleasure, as I mentioned, to be here in the largest edition and most diverse so far in the CAP series, with over 1,000 participants from 87 countries. I wanted to thank our panelists again for being here with us and to introduce them. Richard de Grijs, IAU Vice President of Division C, Education Outreach and Heritage. It's live with us from Australia. Thank you so much, Richard, for being here with us. Constance Walker, President of the Interdivision BC Commission, Protection of Existing and Potential Observatory Sites, and Chair of the Executive Committee Working Group Dark and Quiet Sky Protection. She's here live with us. Thank you so much, Pani, from the US.
Great to be here.
Thank you. John Hearnshaw, it's our Vice President of the Executive Committee of the IAU. It's here live with us today from New Zealand, and will be the chair of the future IAU EC working group of Pro-Am relations. John, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks, Lina.
And last, but of course not least at all, Susana Deustua. Susana, thank you so much for being here with us today. She's the IAU President of Division C, Education, Outreach and Heritage, and is the leader or the driver of the IAU Springboard to Action. Recommendations for improving equity, inclusion and diversity in astronomy. And she's live with us today from the US. Thank you so much, Susana, for being the driving force behind the IAU Springboard to Action and for being here with us today. And of course, thank you all for accepting our invitation and being here again. I mentioned that in the last of the sessions at CAP after such a busy week. I would like to give you a very brief overview of our panel session today. So I will briefly introduce the discussion we will have, or the focus of the discussion, or more or less the context of our discussion here today. And then we will move on to the panelist remarks, followed by a few comments or questions. In all instances, I recommend everyone that are with us today to use the Q&A section to post your questions. In the end, we will have, in the remaining time of the session, we will select some questions and address it to the panelists. Before every question, please highlight to which panelist your question is addressed to. Thank you so much. If you allow me, I will share my screen. I'm not sure if you all can see my screen. Well, however.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to start by giving you some context of the milestones that brought us here today in discussing the IAU outreach-driven programs. There are mostly two milestones that we need to highlight. Was the unprecedented success of the International Year of Astronomy back in 2009, in which we reached 815 million people worldwide in 148 countries. This was led by Pedro Russo, and the vision of the IYA was to help people rediscover their place in the universe through the sky, and thereby engage a personal sense of wonder and discovery. The major goals were, I just want to highlight a few of the many goals that this international celebration had. Increase scientific awareness, promote widespread access to new knowledge and observing experiences, provide a modern image of science and scientists, support and improve formal and informal education, improve the gender balanced representation of scientists, and of course promote a greater involvement by underrepresented groups, and facilitate preservation and protection of the world's cultural and natural heritage of dark skies in places such as urban oases, natural parks, and astronomical sites. So these were some of the goals for this International Year of Astronomy. Fast forward more or less 10 years, we have and also shaped or supported by the 10-year strategic plan for 2010 2020. We have the IAU celebration of 100-year celebration, and this celebration promoted a year-long celebration of 100 years of astronomical discoveries. Of course, it was the 100-year anniversary of the IAU, but in truth, it was a celebration of astronomy and its past century. We reached over 100 million people in total, with 143 countries involved, and this was coordinated by our office, the IAU Office for Astronomy Outreach, and also the IAU Secretariat based in Leiden, which we were a part of. Already in 2019, we have the new strategic plan in place, and this strategic plan already feeds into the major goals of the IAU 100 celebration. I will just give some items that were part of these goals. Increased awareness of progress and excitement in astronomy over the past century, fostering communication and exchange of ideas, promote widespread access to astronomy knowledge, support and improve the use of astronomy as a tool for education, development, and diplomacy, support and improve an inclusive, egalitarian, and diverse astronomy community. So many of these goals are also a follow-up or based on the previous goals established in 2009. It's an ongoing process of improvement and support, and facilitate the preservation and protection of the world's cultural, natural heritage of dark and quiet skies. As I mentioned, this was already influenced not only by the previous strategic plan, by the previous celebration back in 2009, but already well established within the new strategic plan for the next, for this decade, 2020. 2030. I would like to give you an overview of the key goals that this strategic plan predicts. Today, we will mostly focus on goal 4, in which is under the mandate of the IAU Office for Astronomy Outreach, but also all the IAU programs in terms of outreach, communication, and public engagement fall under. Goal 1, the IAU leads the worldwide coordination of astronomy and fostering of communication and dissemination of astronomical knowledge among professional astronomers. In Goal 2, the IAU promotes the inclusive advancement of the field of astronomy in every country. Goal 3, the IAU promotes the use of astronomy as a tool for development in every country. In Goal 5, the IAU stimulates the use of astronomy for teaching and education at school level. So with these comprehensive goals, the one that we will focus on today, as I mentioned, is on Goal 4. And 2 keywords emerge from what is in essence also the goal of our office: to engage the public in astronomy through access to astronomical information and communication of the science of astronomy. This embeds in our vision, our motto, which is astronomy for everyone. We start with a very hard to achieve vision, because we need to think high, we need to aim high, but then how we implement it, what are our strategic points for implementation, for action. That's how we will pave the path to achieve it, or the pursuit of this vision of taking astronomy to everyone. We rely on one of the most active and driven professionals that are fortunately here today with us, which are the National Outreach Coordinators. So currently we have over 130 countries and territories represented in our network. They are a very diverse community composed by amateur astronomers, professional astronomers, outreach professionals, educators, and we rely on this active, engaged network, knowledgeable of the diversity of the different regions, their countries, to support and to implement our vision or our actions. These actions under Goal 4 are focus on to increase the network of NOCs and restructure to ensure their effectiveness, and this is mostly in a co-creative way. We support our NOCs in their, and we try to understand needs of our community to be able to improve our programs. So focusing the way we restructure or the way we coordinate is based on a needs assessment of what the community wishes that our actions are. And facilitate international communication through exchanges and translations to provide open database and public-friendly access to astronomical information, encourage communication of science and critical thinking through IAU member public engagement, professional, amateur, and citizen science activities. And finally, promote dark skies and the pale blue dot message. Following this, several strategic actions, I apologize. We today we have with us as our group of panelists that I would now welcome to say a few remarks in alignment, or how can our community effectively contribute, always thinking that our role is also to serve our community, and how we can align our paths and to in a collaborative way also implement the IAU strategic plan. I would first call Richard, if you could say a few words first, and then I will call the other panelists.
Thank you, Lina, and thank you for the invitation to join this panel. It's a great pleasure. Although I had hoped that we could have done this in person in Australia, where, as you know, I was the chair of the local bid committee. I think this conference has been a great success with so many people attending. Kudos really to you, Lina, and your team. We're still hopeful that we can organize CAP 22 in Sydney next year, September, but we'll see what coronavirus restrictions are like in the next year or so. Now, you invited both Susana, current president of Division C, and myself as vice president to this panel. And in order not to really overlap too much, we had a little bit of an exchange about what to focus on. So I'll focus on my vision for Division C going forward in the next triennium. As the incoming president of Division C, Education, Outreach and Heritage, I'm really keen to contribute to making the world a better place using astronomy. And for me, this is to some extent a natural extension of my earlier efforts to establish the EAROAD, the East Asian Regional Office of Astronomy for Development. Those global efforts are, of course, led by Kevin Govender in Cape Town, but also by the other IAU offices that have so far been established. And all of them fall under the collaborative remit of Division C. So it's not just the OAO, but it's all of the offices, and that's what I have to look at as the incoming president. Although they each have their individual remits, I believe that the onus is on the division to make sure that the work done by each of the offices transcends a single office. So the outcome is greater than the sum of the parts, to use a tired way of saying it. I'm keen to work with all of the office directors to make sure that we create a platform where ideas can be exchanged and collaborations fostered. And of course, all offices are overstretched in terms of manpower, but regular exchanges of information and ideas may prevent reinvention of the wheel and create a more holistic approach to the divisions and, in fact, the IAU's overall outreach and education components. In August of this year, following the IAU business meetings, the new Division C steering committee will take office. We've had elections, but I haven't actually seen any results. Hopefully John can actually enlighten us a bit about the timeline, because I would have expected to know who will be on my steering committee. In addition to the president, myself, the vice president, who is currently still up in the air, well, not literally, but being elected, and a number of independent steering committee members, the presidents of the division commissions are ex officio members. The 4 current Division C commissions have recently been renewed by the executive committee, but each of them, with the possible exception of C3, which is History of Astronomy, has an explicit role in reaching out beyond the ivory tower, either in terms of, no, sorry, just falling down, either in terms of education, communication with the public, or the protection of astronomical heritage. And all of that really is outreach, right? Among IAU divisions, Division C currently has the largest number of working groups, and I don't see that change really. All of those, however, cease to exist in August of this year. And so if there is sufficient appetite to continue their work under the IAU umbrella, Division C members can propose to reinstate them. This year, more than before, we are really emphasizing that working groups must support their commissions or the division in the context of the IAU strategic plan. And that's actually maybe a bit stronger than it was last time. However, I believe there is a greater role for the division leadership to have an impact in this context. First, I'd like to convene the new steering committee shortly after its establishment to discuss ideas for possible flagship projects we could support as a division, either within or outside the commission and working group structure. Such flagships, we've seen some of them in the context of the OAD, although limited in number to at least retain a measure of oversight, can address the division's full remit, not just outreach, of course. Although I hope that they will all include an education and outreach component as fundamental component of their work. Now, looking at the IAU strategic plan, and particularly at actions 3 and 4 under goal 4 that Lina just explained, I believe that a push from the division level for an evidence-based approach and proper evaluation would be helpful. Action 3 aims to provide open databases and public-friendly access to astronomical information, while Action 4 encourages communication of science and critical thinking through IAU member public engagement, professional amateur, and citizen science activities. Now, many of us are enthusiastic astronomy outreach professionals or scientists keen to engage with the public, whatever the public means, but do we know that our efforts really work? The Office of Astronomy for Development has for a while now implemented an evaluation requirement in all of their projects, and I believe that this is an example of best practice that we should try to emulate in the outreach arena as well. I would like to hear your feedback on this, in fact, and also whether you can see ways to implement this as soon as possible. In essence, what I would advocate for is a measure of quality control, if you like, a second pair of eyes to make sure that we engage our audiences adequately rather than turn them off of science completely, because that's the danger if you don't do it well. Finally, another bugbear that has been bothering me for a while now, ever since I have been in IAU leadership positions within commissions and divisions, is that the IAU's flagship program outside the offices, that is the IAU Symposia, are still too often undertaken without a carefully considered public engagement component. I have seen too many IAU Symposium proposals that apparently added a public lecture, just a lecture, as an afterthought to an otherwise excellent science program, just to tick the engagement box. In the current day and age, I believe that this is no longer adequate. But how can we encourage IAU member scientists to seriously consider including an outreach component in their proposals that actually stands the pub test, if you like? I would be keen to hear your thoughts on this aspect as well. I'm probably getting close to my time limit, so let me finish this introduction by encouraging everyone in the CAP community to engage with the Division C commissions and working groups. Division C is rather unique within the IAU in the sense that we allow associate commission and working group members who don't need to be full IAU members. That would most likely apply to those of you who don't have formal scientific appointments, but we really need you to make our efforts work for the benefit of all. If you're a graduate student, please consider applying for junior membership of the IAU. That can be done every year. And if successful, hopefully, you'll be made a junior member until your graduation. We're stronger by combining forces. And even though the IAU is a membership organization, we need to go beyond the IAU's membership to impact the wider world. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Richard, for the overview, and especially, and one of my questions were exactly in that sense. How can the community, especially here, the community present here at CAP, can we engage with the division and be more active, even contributing within the different working groups, commissions, it's quite clear through the associate members, and then contribute to the flagship that you mentioned that will become part of the division actions. You mentioned evaluation, and you mentioned two points: the evaluation and outreach in public in IAU Symposium. In terms of evaluation, I completely agree. I think it's something that we definitely need to incorporate, this evaluation and assessment component in all our programs. But more than that, we need to provide support to our community on how to incorporate it early on, when you are planning every activity, every event, every program and project. Yeah. And this comes with training that falls under us. And when I say us, I say as IAU, part of IAU division, working groups and commissions to provide these best practices and to help shape this behavior that we want to see, as in to have a better evaluation. And it starts by example. So this is my opinion and my if we can say, the next strategic actions also for the office. We lead by example, incorporating it in our own programs, and then we, with the help of our NOCs, our National Outreach Coordinators, our representatives in the community, providing the proper training, help them train others and also to have others to incorporate this assessment in the evaluation system in every activities. Of course, this is a long, it's something that we hope to achieve in the next decade. Your second comment was also in terms of the IAU professional and amateur, IAU member and public relation. We do already have some programs. We started this year with last year with Meet the IAU Astronomers, but again, it's our role to support the IAU professional astronomer community with proper training in communication and public engagement. Currently, the IAU has a partnership with Kavli Foundation, and this is being led by our office and also by Leiden University. And we are coordinating a training, implementing a training for professional astronomers in public engagement. So this will be enhanced again, a long-term program that will provide this support to professional astronomers on how to become better communicators in their actions of public engagement. The third point that you mentioned was to incorporate outreach, proper public outreach activities in IAU Symposium. And again, this starts from us. And the suggestion is not only make a kind suggestion to the organizers to engage the public with the symposium, but make this as a standard rule from our side as an IAU to the organizers of the symposium, to be mandatory, if you can say it like this, without being too imposing, because they are international symposium, or not international, but they are the contests are open to everyone. So different communities have different struggles, and without imposing too much, to ask to make a stronger connection with the public, and bridge the symposium more with the public communities. This is my take on my comments on your points that you made.
Thank you, Lina. I think there's a lot more to discuss, but in view of the time, let's move on.
Thank you, Richard. And now I would like to call John Hearnshaw, if you could be next, if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Lina. Great pleasure to be here. As you have mentioned, the strategic plan goal 4 is all to do with outreach. And in this short talk, I want to discuss 3 aspects of astronomical outreach. The first is the fact that just last week, we formed a new working group under the Executive Committee for Professional Amateur Relations. And I think support for amateur astronomers around the world is one long overdue aspect of the work of the IAU as a whole. The IAU has been very much focused on professional astronomers for the last 100 years, and we should not forget that for every professional astronomer, there are perhaps 20 or 30, I don't actually know how many, amateur astronomers there are, but there's a huge community, some of them doing excellent research and who would benefit from collaboration with professionals. So I see this working group, which, by the way, has 11 members, and we are on every inhabited continent of the world, so very widely distributed. We had our first meeting a few days ago, and I don't quite know exactly what direction we will take, but I imagine that what will be discussed in the coming weeks is having a biennial online workshop for amateur astronomers, probably collaborating with professionals. So that's one thing. Every 2 years, have this online workshop. And one idea I'm very keen to promote is having some kind of affiliation with amateur societies around the world, not the smaller ones, but the national amateur societies, like, for example, the British Astronomical Association, Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. Probably many societies are mixed amateur and professionals, like the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. So I would like to see affiliations as a means of communication between the IAU and this broad body of amateur astronomers. And another idea is perhaps we can have an IAU symposium in a country with a lot of amateur astronomers to promote pro-am relations. And I actually proposed such a symposium a few years ago to be held in Iran. It wasn't supported by the IAU Executive Committee, but there's no harm in making such a suggestion again. So that's the new pro-am working group. The next aspect of outreach is Astro Tourism. And Astro Tourism is a very fast-growing aspect of astronomy outreach, which is growing in many countries. New Zealand has been especially strong in this department. And Astro Tourism mainly takes place in the darkest places of the world, and people are going from light-polluted cities, mainly in the northern hemisphere, to some of the darkest places in the world. There are about 250 dark sky places present with accreditation from the International Dark Sky Association, from the Fundación Starlight in Spain, and from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada has a lot of nationally accredited dark sky places. So there are about 250. These are the main destinations for astro tourists. In New Zealand, we have 4 dark sky places. Aotearoa Mackenzie International Dark Sky Reserve was the first and the largest, and it's been extraordinarily successful in promoting astro tourists. It's now one of New Zealand's main tourist destinations of any type, and about 150,000 astro tourists come from all over the world to see our stars. However, in the last year, that's been severely curtailed to almost nothing because of the pandemic, but surely it will start again. So there are about 20 aspiring communities in New Zealand who want to be dark sky places to emulate the success of Aotearoa Mackenzie. So astro tourism around the world is a very big thing. Many of these dark sky places have guided night sky tours. There are a lot of night sky guides in New Zealand. New Zealand, there are about 25 companies doing guided night sky tours. And one of our concerns is that these guides should be properly trained to deliver outreach to astro tourists. And for that reason, I've just started a new company called the Aotearoa Astro Tourism Academy. Aotearoa is the name for New Zealand, by the way. So this academy will run courses for the training of night sky guides, or for anyone who wants to understand what's up there in the sky. And the first course will be in September this year. The third aspect I wanted to discuss briefly, I don't want to upstage Connie because she's the real expert on this, but is on artificial light at night and its abatement for dark sky protection, which is also, of course, one of the strategic actions in Goal 4, skies. And there have been a number of reports and documents which I have contributed to. Connie will tell you about the UN report, which has just been released, written by 5 working groups. I co-chaired one of those on dark sky places or dark sky oases. But also there's been an IUCN report issued but not yet published, but it will be very soon, published by the Dark Skies Advisory Group of IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and it's mainly about the environment protection of the environment to protect it from artificial light at night. So that is a major report coming out very soon. I wrote a chapter on dark sky protection and light pollution abatement for a new book to be published by Springer. And it's on the risk management in outer space, but there's a chapter on light pollution and how it affects astronomy. That chapter, and it will be published very soon by Springer. And finally, on this subject of dark skies, I've just finished writing a whole book. Here it is. It's going to be published in 2 weeks' time. It's the New Zealand Dark Sky Handbook. Is that the right way around, or is it back to front? It looks back to front in my image, but this book will come out and very soon, in in 2 or 3 weeks. And if you want to buy a copy, just send me an email, and I'd be delighted to send you one. So I think that's all I need to say. And Lina, thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you so much. And we at the IAU Office for Astronomy Outreach, we are really looking forward to collaborate closely with the new working group because the amateur community is one of our most dynamic and incredibly active, knowledgeable of both astronomy and the diversity of the different territories and different countries. So we are really looking forward to have a working group in a more official way in which the IAU can help us support in a proper way this community. We have a comment from one of our participants. Cesare Pagan says, fully agree about the opportunity for structured pro-am collaboration at national association level. I would suggest not to limit it to research. Amateur astronomers are a powerful outreach army on the field. Completely agree. With a widespread distribution and strong connection with the territory. As the professional community also developed the outreach efforts, it would be much more effective if the two armies could cooperate in a structured way. And this was exactly in line with what the way that we wish to engage both with the working group, with the new working group, and making this bridge and engage with our community of national outreach coordinators, in which the vast majority are actively engaged with amateur astronomers, and more than that, they are amateur astronomers. So we do really hope to streamline and to bridge both the professional community and the amateurs. Thank you so much, John. And also carrying on the topic of dark skies, Connie, thank you so much for being here with us today. And if you like to share your thoughts with us, thank you so much.
Okay, first, can you hear me and can you see the presentation?
Yes, everything is good, Connie.
Perfect, okay. Yeah, well, I just want to say that thank you, John. You did not preempt what I was going to say in any way, because Lina had asked me to talk about pretty much the outreach efforts, and those specifically connected to OAO, the outreach, the Office of Astronomy Outreach, and other IAU entities. But so I was going to do that for goal 4 with respect to promoting dark skies. So for this talk, I wanted to mostly look back actually a little bit, because that's what I was asked to do, and then look forward, especially in the discussion we hope to have after this. It began pretty much with 2007. I was first involved with my first CAP meeting, which was actually the 4th CAP conference, I guess, and that was in Athens. And I jumped into the fire, because that's exactly when they started planning for the International Year of Astronomy, which took place in 2009, and that you heard from Lina all about. But that allowed us to have a Cornerstone project called Dark Skies Awareness. And this Cornerstone project really opened up so many avenues, I could say. It allowed us to experience opportunities we never had before, and allowed us to handshake, basically, with people all around the world, learn from them, benefit from their knowledge, and then implement a lot of things we had never had the chance to do so before. So I'll go more into that. I shouldn't really go into that right now. But anyways, 2009 was that cornerstone for the International Year of Astronomy. 2013, we had something called we had an opportunity to do an outreach program with the Sub-Saharan African countries. And then in 2015 was the International Year of Light. And we had a project for that as well. I'll talk about that in a minute. 2019 was, of course, the celebration of the 100 years of IAU. And we had global projects for that, one of which was on dark skies. And that's where one of the legacy projects, Dark Skies Ambassadors, continues to this day, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And then in between all of that, from 2012 till actually next year, we've had 3 general assemblies, and then the 4th one in which we will have special sessions on dark skies. And in those special sessions, we also do outreach, but it's more of an in-reach. It's to astronomers to teach them more about dark skies education. So I'll talk about that just briefly. And then we'll go into a little bit of some takeaways, and then in the discussion, I hope to talk more about the directions we should consider for the future. Okay, so the first one was the Dark Skies Awareness Cornerstone in 2009. This was a year that was sanctioned by the UN. The IAU provided opportunities to extend a handshake around the world, as I had mentioned. It really built confidence to learn from each other and be more connected. It really helped set our mindset on what we could do and what we could accomplish. We had we had about 45 people from around the world spearhead projects. And so we had new technologies that we used, new at the time, which is like social media and actually Second Life, which you don't hear too much about these days. But it was a new way of communicating and educating people widely all around the world. And we had a vast amount of educational materials. We had educational programs and kits and workshops worldwide. And we had citizen science programs that were global. And the promotion of dark sky places, as John had talked about. And then events that celebrated and promoted dark skies in national parks and observatories. And what was near and dear also to my heart was a wonderful international photo contest we had with the World at Night. It was TWAN, as people know it. The second project I just want to briefly mention, because this gives you context into what is possible and what to think about for the future, is a project that we had with the Office of Astronomy for Development, actually. It was one of the very first projects they had. It was on just dark skies outreach to Sub-Saharan African countries. And we had 11 Sub-Saharan countries involved, plus Algeria, which is not actually considered a Sub-Saharan country. And in doing so, we had that goal of sharing cross-cultural wonders of the night sky, and this was also to inspire people in science, technology, engineering, and math, and also to increase awareness of the effects that light pollution has on our daily lives, and that that also includes things like energy consumption and impact on our health, and how it affects animals and things like that. And also to inspire behavioral change. So enough behavioral change that they might even take action, and to provide them with the tools with which to take that action. So we did this in a fun, problem-based, inquiry-based, hands-on-based experience kind of thing, where they had kits, and the kits are actually sent to these 12 sites. And then we'd have trainings on what then was the latest and the greatest Google Plus Hangouts, and these were recorded, and we had a web page for information and where you can download the files, and lots of conversations via email and informally through Google Plus Hangouts. And I could go into the challenges and lessons learned if you want to ask me about those. There were some very interesting ones, and like Richard had said, we did a lot of evaluation on this particular program, and had some really good astute outcomes that we could improve on in later projects. And then we had in 2015 again, a UN-sanctioned international year, but this was of light. And it was like being the David in the world of Goliath, I guess, in some ways, because you had all these lighting companies, and there you were, one of the Cornerstone projects that kind of talked about the importance of dark skies. But we did a very good job. I think we acknowledged the emphasis on the importance of light and optical technologies in people's lives. We also try to emphasize how light pollution affects people's lives and the research that astronomers do. So in doing that, we had a kit again. Each time this kit gets expanded and improved and culled, actually, to improve it. And we had 6 wonderful activities. It dealt on all sorts of aspects you might consider on energy consumption, animals and health, and sky glow and shielding and stuff like that I mentioned before. And then, really honed in on questions about energy efficiency with lighting and how we can minimize, use responsible lighting and minimize light pollution and help people make a difference. And so we handed out many kits and had many online trainings again. And then, of course, something that's near and dear to both Lina's heart and my heart is the program on Dark Skies Ambassadors. This was part of the 100-year celebration for IAU. It was a cornerstone project called Dark Skies for All, in which the Dark Skies Ambassadors was a part. We had 2 things in there. One was the Dark Skies Ambassador program. The other was the Turn on the Night kit. And again, we sent out kits across the world. And to over, so I got over 100 kids to 50 countries. And, of course, you always try to do the training as well so that people can implement the kits properly, basically. But the ambassadors is really what has lasted and has continued and has really honed in on what is important in terms of, having advocates that can spread the word and the concern about light pollution and organize actions and get others to do events besides themselves doing events, just really being the spokespeople for astronomy and the preservation of dark skies. And it was really wonderful to be part of that program and to see it continue. And the thing is, it's also a community in which they support each other and they communicate with each other on a constant basis, saying what they're doing, asking for advice. It's really, really a very wonderful opportunity. And you can see the numbers below for the number of ambassadors and events and countries and attendees and stuff like that, and the types of activities. And this is basically, though, the numbers basically before COVID. So the numbers now are in the hands of the national representatives of the countries, and those numbers are forthcoming for this past year. So this past year, I guess. Okay. So then I think one thing I did want to mention that is a little bit different from the educational programs that I gave you examples of that we've been doing the past, I say, 12 years. We've been actually, as astronomers, we've been also connecting with other astronomers. So there's the outreach that we do, but there's also the inreach that we do. So with respect to the C.B7, of course, we try every 3 years when we do have the General Assembly to have a session on light pollution. And we've been very successful in all cases. And even in 2018 it was, we had a one offsite. And in every single event, we had some sort of public event, but mostly it was geared toward our own members that are really not involved in dark skies education, but we were trying to get them aware of what we're doing and also be a part of it. So that's the inreach I'm talking about. And so we had a planetarium show for one of the years, an award ceremony for the Gabriela Mistral Dark Sky Sanctuary another year, and that was a lot of fun. And then a dark skies excursion for that last year that's named above. And then, of course, the conferences, I didn't want to go into them too much because I wanted this to be more on the outreach we're doing for the public. But John is right. We've been having, it's not to minimize the amount of work, because it's been a tremendous amount of work. There's a commission on site protection, as Lina had mentioned. It's called C.B7 because it's a cross commission thing between Division C and Division B. And that group and the executive working group for dark and quiet skies protection have been at the heart of establishing a workshop last year and a conference last year, a conference this year, excuse me, on dark and quiet skies. And one of those working groups is on satellite constellations. And the others are on, as I think John might have mentioned, one's on dark sky oases that John was co-chairing, another on observatory sites and the optical, the ALAN, the artificial light at night that can occur with respect to observatory sites. A third category was on the bioenvironment, and then we had dark sky, satellite constellations and radio astronomy. Excuse me, 5 of them. Oh. So anyway, and we did our. And I just wanted to mention that particular set of activities there. So, because we're not a silo, the astronomers have to be hand in hand with the people they're doing outreach with and for. So, so I wanted to make that connection.
Thank you so much.
The last slide.
Please.
Oh, sorry. The last slide is just takeaways. Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt, because I think that what you mentioned, that the IAU members and the IAU community should work hand in hand with our so very active community, and that was exactly one of my comments to you, is and that we need to brainstorm as a community and with the community. How can we be relevant? Because they are already so active. They have things moving forward, that how can we support and add on some positive contribution to the already active community. That is really my question for our next or our upcoming discussions, in how can we make a difference in supporting such an already active community. You mentioned the symposium, you mentioned the different meetings and resources that we can provide, but how can we do even more? And that comes with a dialogue, a close dialogue with the community to manage their expectations as well from our side. And thank you so much, Connie. And I apologize, we are running a bit out of time, and I would like to I wanted to take some of the comments we already have here, and but first I would like, again, last but not least, Susana, thank you so much again for being with us, and I will give the floor to you. And thank you so much, Connie.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. And it is an honor to be participating on this panel with my august co-panelists, and it's great to see the people who are on and listening. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Springboard to Action. Just as a way of background, as Lina says, I'm currently the president of Division C, and as you heard, Richard de Grijs will be the next president for the next triennium, and I am looking forward to his work. And I also wanted to point out a little bit of history on the working group of astronomy for equity and inclusion, and which is in astronomy, which is that it had its origins in Division C. And then at the beginning of the last triennium, it became clear that its activities were really much broader than a single division, and that it properly belonged in the executive committee. And so that's been I think that's a really good thing, and it's a very positive step, and it indicated that the IAU has taken the issues of diversity, of equity, and of inclusion to heart. It's always had that emphasis, but I think this really made it an integral part of what the IAU is about. And of course, I also wanted to do a shout out to the symposium that was held, the first ever symposium that dedicated to these issues, which was held in Mitaka, Japan, in 2019, in the before times. And Lina was one of the organizers of that conference. And again, it just highlighted that that was a very important step for the IAU as a whole. And it brought together individuals from different parts of the country, different regions of the world, different countries who were trying to address issues of diversity and equity and inclusion within astronomy, within research astronomy, but also within the context of outreach and education. So one aspect of this that I'd like to address is not that we've solved the problem by any means, is that we know that there are people who have different, say, skills or capabilities. We know there are people who come from different backgrounds, have different levels of privilege or access to astronomy and to STEM. And the question is, how do we get into the pool of interested humans, people who are interested in astronomy for its own sake, interested in astronomy for its cultural value, interested in astronomy because they want to be researchers or because they want to be able to teach it. And so this is a big issue. It has very different answers depending on where you are in the world and what you're looking for. So let me just sort of back up a little bit and talk about accessibility and inclusion in the context of outreach programs, because this is CAP after all. And so we know that people are aware that that there are programs that are specifically dedicated to, for example, people who are visually impaired. So you can get a group of people who are visually impaired and provide an astronomy experience for that group. Or a group of people who are hearing impaired or who have other challenges. So the question becomes, is this really what you want to do in outreach? Do you want to have special programs for special individuals? Or do you want to build, and I may not be using the words correctly, so forgive me, I'm not trying to be weird or offensive. Or do you want to design programs that are truly accessible? So do you design programs that already incorporate different modalities so that somebody who is, for example, in a wheelchair can access the materials? You have to think about that. Somebody who is visually impaired, how do you present materials, and so forth, or small children. And we know we do this when we have mixed audiences of small children, adults, and older adults. We have a sort of an intuitive sense of how do we do these different modalities so that we can address the 5-year-old, the 40-year-old, the 60-year-old. So we know how to do this for ages, but I think we need to think about how do we do this for different demographic groups. And I've talked a little bit, I've mentioned specifically people with various types of physical disabilities. There are people who have hidden disabilities, but also the other part of this, of accessibility, is being culturally sensitive. And that is really, really hard. I don't have a straightforward answer. Again, it depends on where you are, depends on the context in which you are operating, but it is important to understand who your audience is and how to make sure that accessibility really covers the people you want to have come and enjoy your program. So I guess my thought on this is that as outreach professionals and as educators, and I include outreach professionals as educators in that context, is we really need to think about not just the people who usually come to our programs, but also how do we reach different populations? And I'll just throw out a few others. There are children who live in foster homes. There are children who live in orphanages. There are people who are incarcerated, or there are people who are not free to move around. So they may be incarcerated, but they may also be people who are living in specific types of homes. Are these people we want to reach? And if so, how do we structure our programs so that we can include such a diverse group? So I guess what I'm doing is I'm sort of cutting through a various types of issues of diversity and inclusion, from physical challenges, various types of disabilities, and even just locomotor skills and accessibility. If you are in a home or you are in jail, it is very hard to access certain types of programs. So we need to think about how we do that. So again, I don't have any answers. I just know that these are really important questions that we should all be asking ourselves. And we have the tools. We have people. We have the NOCs. And I've heard, not just here, but elsewhere, we have coordinators. There's a lot of networks that we can reach. And so part of it is making these networks of people aware and perhaps provide some training on how to, I don't know what the word is, accessibilize. Is that even a good English word? To make accessible all of our programs, no matter where we are in the world, regardless of the resources that are available, is to just tap into that pool that often is neglected or doesn't have the same level of access. So within the Springboard, let me just talk a little bit too about the Springboard of Action, and then I'll be done. Which is, so the Springboard to Action did not lay out, thou shalt in minute detail. It laid out sort of a broad set of steps that individuals, that organizations, that perhaps institutions could take in order to address these issues. And so I think there are people of goodwill in every country in this world who are trying to address and reach these issues, and it behooves us to make contact with those individuals, regardless of whether they're government officials, NGOs, educators, and so forth. So I think we need to strengthen some of those ties and take advantage of, and Richard mentioned earlier, evidence-based. There is a lot of research as well into how to make programs accessible, and we should be taking advantage of that as well. So again, I don't have any concrete answers. I have a lot of questions and perhaps some thoughts on where we can go to truly tap into humanity's interest in astronomy wherever they are. And I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Susana. And it's exactly why we are hosting these discussions, because it's okay not to have all the answers. What is important is the co-creation aspect, and involve everyone, actively involve everyone in the discussion, both the IAU community, our wider community, including, of course, our NOCs that have a paramount role in representing their own communities and the territories, so that we can be inclusive, truly inclusive in these dialogues. Thank you so much, Susana. And we really hope to continue to collaborate with the working group and the different subgroups that address already some of the points that you made, and the efforts that we are doing. Because as you know, we have our annual projects that go around a particular topic or a particular event, but we also have underlying programs. And one of these programs is on inclusion and support our community to become more inclusive in their practices, and this has to be a baseline underlying program across the different projects. So I think we're definitely in tune and in the same page with the working group and the next steps to carry. Thank you so much, Susana, again. And I we're already a bit out of time, and while I select some comments and questions from our participants, I would like to apologize to Connie, because I had a glitch, and it seems that Connie had stopped talking, and she was still addressing a final slide on the takeaways. I want to apologize, Connie. It was not my intent to cut you. If you could expand in the time that we have left, expand a bit on the takeaways that we as a community can have from your and an overview of what you're on your address, if that's possible.
Very possible. I just it's just a general comment, Lina. So if you want to really take on more ardent questions, like following on what Susana had said, I think that's much more beneficial in some ways. I just was reiterating the positive impacts of everything that has been done in the past 12 years or so, and the benefit of a starry dark night sky, culturally and scientifically, and it's immeasurable how much benefit that they offer, and especially with the dark skies ambassadors, the conduit to the public, and the importance of what they do, it cannot be really packaged. So expanding what they need in order to do their job better, the tools that we might be able to provide them is another conversation we could have some other time, I think, because again, I think I'd like to get back to Susana's. That was really great, Susana. I'm sorry. So if you want to go back to any questions you might have for Susana, and then come back if you have any more. How much more time do we have, Lina? What do we have?
We're already 5 minutes over time, but we have some great comments from our participants. And as I see, we still have several participants online. So if you have 5 more minutes, I know Richard, you have some busy schedule, and also you, Suzanne, and of course everyone. But if you allow me just 5 minutes, because I will take. Thank you so much. And Connie, I will take up your advice. And one of the comments for Susana is from our colleague Hayashi-san. I see Susana, that the concept of content is universal, but the form of presentation is local. So here comes the co-creation and collaboration aspect. It's a comment. It's not.
Correct. It is, and that is exactly the right comment. Is that these are universal concepts, but the application and the implementation has to be at a local level.
Thank you, Susana. And another comment from our colleague Emilio, and also from Donald. IAU offices could facilitate communications through new partnerships and encouraging a larger institution to get closer, and this is in relation to the topic of amateur astronomers, to amateur associations which implement lots of outreach in order to share experiences and strengthen capabilities. So the comment goes in line in strengthening these partnerships and enlarging, and in the all reasons to bridging the global community and make them cooperate. And this is at the heart, if we think it's at the heart of the IAU mission through international cooperation. So our role goes much in line to put people together in contact, communicating, exchanging. Actually, this is something that is translated in our strategic actions. Another comment was from our colleague Samir. The OED is the one supporting Astro Tourism projects, since it also includes development within the local community. Exactly, and this is what I think it's really powerful in the IAU structure. And of course, Richard and Susana and even John or Connie can step in and give their opinion on this. This is where the IAU structure is so strong, because when we talk about overlap or convergence, we always try to use this opportunity to synergize and to maximize our impact. It's not an overlap in a bad sense. So all of us, all the office has their own mandate, outreach and communication for development, for education. And that's why our strengths reside. So even in topics such as dark skies, astro tourism, inclusion, we can really bridge our efforts, and the community benefits. Richard, please.
Yeah, so in the context of Astro Tourism, I fully agree that the OAD is playing an important role there. In addition to the New Zealand angle that we heard about today, I'm aware of efforts by the Southeast Asian Road, particularly in Armenia and surrounding countries. But at the same time, when we called for working group proposals 3 years ago, we got quite a lot of interest in Astro Tourism. So Astro Tourism, the outreach component and the science component, falls under one of the commissions. It's actually an inter-commission C1, C3, C4 on ethno-astronomy. So and again, so as I said in the chat, this shows that we really have to collaborate outside of the silos of the individual offices, but make this kind of a more general platform.
Definitely.
I completely agree with you, Richard. And IAO, OAD, and Division C all have a role in astrotourism. So collaborating between those silos, well, there shouldn't be silos at all. And talking about books, probably you know that Lonely Planet has produced this Dark Skies book about a year ago, I think, and that's all about astrotourism as well. So there's a huge growing interest in astrotourism, and it's an industry which really only started 2 decades ago, beginning of this century, and it's growing around the world very, very fast. So it's a big new thing.
Thank you so much, John. I'm just if again we are a bit over time, but I just wanted to address one more question by our colleague Lina, and this is addressed to John. Astrotourism is quite interesting, and certain parts of the world is actively engaged. This was already more or less answered. Whether astrotourism falls within the IAU directly, and is the executive committee working group professional amateur relations in astronomy has any astrotourism? We already addressed this, but if you could again.
Well, Lina, thank you very much for the comment and question. I would say I actually don't know what the new working group on professional amateur relations, what directions it will take. I have ideas, but my guess is probably we will focus more on the amateur astronomers who are interested in doing research, or those but not the astrotourist, which is the sort of more general end of amateur astronomers. In fact, they're not even amateur astronomers in many cases. It's kind of outreach. So I would say the new working group won't focus on astrotourism, but there are enough, as we just mentioned, enough organizations within the IAU, OAO, OAD, Division C, to cater for promoting astrotourism. So the new working group doesn't have to be involved with that necessarily. It might be, but I don't think it's a major focus.
Thank you so much, John. And another question and comment by our colleague Lina, which I will give the word to either that wishes to answer, but particularly to Susana perhaps, or even Richard. Last decade has been truly inspiring, especially in the recent success of the OAO. With all these activities going on, how does the IAU actively make sure that the colonial science outreach or the parachute science outreach will not happen under the IAU umbrella?
Did you say the words colonial and parachute?
Colonial and parachute. How does, and Richard also follow up, and that is actually concern I have, particularly in relation of Western scientists going to developing countries to do outreach and development.
Right. I will say something, and I'm sure Richard will have his own take on this, but that is exactly one of the issues that we address in DEI, is that astronomy is a cultural endeavor that has been part of all cultures. I don't think there's a single culture, either extant or extinct, that did not use astronomy in one way, shape, or another. And if we define that by observing the night sky, observing the planets, observing the daylit sky. And so we have to be mindful that not outside of the Western culture, but Europe and let's not get into that, but that and oftentimes astronomy is part of the cultural practice. It is not true in Western Europe per se, and in certain other areas. but we do have to be that's part of what I was referring to as being sensitive, culturally sensitive to what is around and what people are bringing. And it is important to acknowledge that. I mean, that's the only way you avoid this colonial aspect, which we won't go into the whole etymology of it. And then the parachute, I think you mean, is people just jumping in, doing one thing, and then leaving. And again, I think that's somewhat disrespectful to the professionals who live in and work in an area and are trying to do what they need to do outreach or education in astronomy. And I don't know that I have a good answer other than that we should not be financially supporting such efforts. But I will cede the floor or the camera to Richard.
Thank you, Susana. Yes, I would like, so from my experience, I've been an assessor for the OAD projects for quite a few years now. You don't want to feed the number of people from Western countries who want to go to Africa to do outreach and development. And that was what drove my comment there. I should actually expand what I said. It's not just developing countries. Here in Australia, Aboriginal star lore is very strong. And it belongs to the Aboriginal people, but there are too many Westerners who still, or Europeans imports who still want to, have a bit of the cake and do some astronomy there as well without talking to the Aboriginal people. And I think that is also something that we have to be very careful about.
Susana, and thank you to Lina for bringing up, if I can add on with a very particular experience that we do have in one of our programs, that is Telescopes for All, in which we bring telescopes or provide telescopes for underserved communities. We have many proposals that are exactly that, countries that want a telescope to go into underserved communities and make one activity. And this is something that we try not to encourage, but to empower, to train, and to support the local communities. I see that Aviva made a comment also into this respect. It would be nice to have astronomers in the region to do outreach, as they are more understanding on the region's problems. And this, I think it sums beautiful the whole program. We need to empower the local communities to do this, in this case, this outreach action, and to give the proper resources and support. Connie, yes,
yeah,
please.
so Lina, yeah, I feel I might have misrepresented the Dark Skies outreach to Sub-Saharan African project we had, which was an OAD project. That was done in conjunction with each country's NOC, the representative, and they picked the people. We did this together. It wasn't like, I was forcing anything on the people in that country. So I hope that it wasn't taken the wrong way. And,
no, not at all, Connie.
Yeah, okay.
But thank you but this is very important to clarify, and thank you so much.
It wasn't aimed at you.
Thank you.
It wasn't aimed at you.
No, it's okay.
Not at all.
Just wanted to make that clear.
This is no, not in particular at all, Connie, because this is an ongoing discussion that we really need to address. And what I like particularly in Lina's comment is how do we address this? As the IAU has definitely a role, and this goes in line with what Susana was mentioning. And this is something that we really need to be aware. And again, early on, we already do this actively, like Connie already mentioned, I already mentioned, but we can do better. So it's our responsibility to, in the next decade, through our strategic actions, through these exchanges and this access, to be truly inclusive and avoid this parachute science outreach mentioned by Lina. And again, we are already 20 minutes after our time, and thank you all. I see that everyone is still joining us even after the hour that we had planned for this discussion. Again, this will be the first in a series of discussion. Of course, we will invite, and if possible, we would love to have you again and invite you again in future panels. And we will also invite other people within the IAU and, of course, within the community. We do hope we can engage both IAU membership and our CAP community here represented, our IAU global family, if we can say it like this, into engaging in building the next steps into our strategic plan. So thank you much again to our speakers and to our participants, and please stay connected. Together we can build, we can always be better together. So thank you so much.
Thank
Let's
you,
make it
Lina.
work.
Lina.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye. Bye, Lina. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Oops.
Thank you so much, Aife.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your support. Take
was
care
really good.
and stay in contact. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
definitely. Bye.
Bye bye.